Hello everybody, welcome to a brand new Let's Play here in the Hearts of Iron for Kaiserreich today. Playing as the wonderful nation of Puerto Rico. So here we are, all the way down here in the Caribbean, just having a good time, just hanging out. So it is currently March 29th, 1937. The United States is about to enter a bad time. Let's just put it that way. But we're over here, we're just chilling. We're not at war. Well, I mean, they're not at war either, but we won't be at war. We're gonna have our one division. He's great. Is he any good? No, he's 12 combat, but he's not very good. Do we actually have even any commanders for this guy? We do. Okay, we have more than I expected. So we'll assign you here. We'll assign you to our field marshal. You are just gonna be hanging out in San Juan. What is our goal for this campaign? Which I think is a very, reasonable question to ask. Well, first things first is we are going to be declaring our independence from the United States. That's step one. After that, I don't have a step two. So if anybody in the comments has any suggestions, I would love to hear it. So we will do protest succeed. Apparently that's bypassed immediately. Fantastic. Cannot do this quite yet. So let's do the economic recovery plan. Fantastic. Which is... okay, seems pretty good. How bad is this penalty? Oh, horrible. Negative 200% monthly population. Okay, it's really, really bad. Where would they possibly be going? Should be going to the mainland. I would recommend not going to the mainland. But we'll be getting our basic technologies here. 36 on you. 36 on you. Apparently, Puerto Rico does not inherit MacArthur's technology, which is a little bit unfortunate. Currently, you have one factory. Let's see if you can maybe make that into two factories. We have one slot. Then I guess we'll make it into a military factory. Just so we can have one of each and call it a day. Get our Army Navy experience. Let's not worry about railroads right now. We have literally one province. No, we have two provinces. Okay, fantastic. Other than that, we have 26,000 manpower available to us. Population 1.78 million. Decent stability, decent war support. Political power is fine. Okay, well, I think we should be good to go. I'm not too sure how long this campaign is actually even going to last. Because I don't know how much content Puerto Rico actually has, but we'll give it a little run through. The Governor Winship given exceptional powers. With the outbreak of the Civil War in America, it seems that the federal government has seen it necessary to grant Blanton Winston, the American governor of the island, exceptional powers to handle the situation. Many Puerto Rican nationalists have long fought Winship, who was largely seen as a violent despot by the locals, and a sudden change in conditions may aid Winship in dealing killing blows of Puerto Rican independence, for better or for worse. Okay. Anti-American settlement, which is stability minus 5% per week. Okay, that actually is pretty substantial. Yeah, that's a lot, actually. Negative 5% per week. Holy hell. Okay, so this needs political situation stabilized. I don't know where we're going to get that from. Union Puerto Rico formed. With Winship now having more power than ever, Puerto Rican independence groups, including the Nationalists, the Liberals, and the Union Party, have all coalesced together into the Union of Puerto Rico. A seemingly defunct coalition that perished in the past decade due to infighting, the efforts of the American governor Emmett Montgomery Reilly to disarm the coalition into cooperation. Now, with the parties united politically, Winship is unable to take action against the independents without forcing a gridlock at the legislature. And while he could bypass them executively as governor, it is clear that tensions are rising on the island. If the American governorship intends to survive, they'll have to find a way to negotiate with the coalition. So we have the Liberals, the Socialists, Union Puerto Rico is right now the Conservative. I think we do need to boost up the Conservative Party as much as we possibly can. You know what? Screw you. Let's get this one next. Let's just get our independence done as quickly as possible. So the San Juan Convention called. The growing tension on the island as demonstrations and protests have become commonplace in the countryside. The small cities to the periphery, Governor Winship has decided to call the leaders of the Union of Puerto Rico to La Flecha to discuss terms of reforms. While political reformation of Puerto Rico had been in the cards for the past decade, no governor so far since passing in the Jones Act had seriously proposed reconstruction of Puerto Rican political status. While this move has certainly impressed many, a lot of skepticism remains. Specifically among voters of the Nationalist and Liberal Party, which see this as nothing more than an opportunist way for the governor to appear like he's listening to the popular will. Nevertheless, the Puerto Rican delegation, spearheaded by Antonio R. Barcelo, Luis Moniz Marin, Jose Col Cucci, Pedro Albizu Campos, look, I don't speak Spanish, okay? And Santiago Pantin, all of them representing each of the major parties of the coalition, has arrived in La Fuerza in San Juan and shall remain there for the duration of the negotiations. Okay, so weekly stability is now no longer -5, it's now only -1. So that's something. That's like 80% better. Puerto Rican Economic Relief Program. The first subject brought into the convention is that of the economic situation in the island. It is apparent for both sides that the island situation is unsustainable, as their population greatly exceeds the amount of work the island currently provides. This has sparked a rather rampant issue on unemployment and the collapse of the sugar market due to the Great Depression. Black Monday and the American Civil War have certainly not helped the situation at all. Provided that, the UPR has deemed it necessary for the United States to stop neglecting the island and to send it some much-needed economic relief, varying from simple industrialization investments to more comprehensive plans like infrastructure reformation, social security measures, and so on. However, considering the Civil War at home, it is not precisely clear the governor can actually deliver on these promises. Again, we will be boosting up the conservatives as much as we possibly can, because they are the independence movement. We do want to declare independence. What party we want to go to afterwards, I'm not too sure. Puerto Rican citizenship. The Puerto Rican delegates have spoken strongly against the current treatment of the Jones Law, claiming that the United States is clearly shirking in its responsibilities. This means that, while Puerto Rican citizens are considered de facto American citizens, they have been placed into segregated services in the mainland along with African Americans, and they have been segregated from the executive and judicial branches almost entirely, even on their own island. The UPR has demanded the governor to give Puerto Rico citizens guarantees that their rights won't be ignored again, and that they shall be given the same amount of rights to their elected representatives to be represented in a national congress as any other state would. As parts of negotiations are leaked to the press, it is evident that the island is divided on the subject. A specific group of the population seems to hope that the Union will listen to their demands, while many others point out that the Union failed to keep their word for decades, they will fail again to keep their word now. While the governor has requested some time to contact the federal government regarding the situation in the island, it is clear that their demands require some form of official response. Okay, let me just see here. The Puerto Rico autocrats must be below 55%. And this is, we need over 55% paternal autocrats support this branch. Paternal autocrats drop below 20% while taking the focuses. The independents will take over. I mean, right now they're at 26, so we will do this here, 17%. That should mean that negotiations fail. At least I'm hoping so. Paternal autocrats drop below 20%. I mean, they're at 16%, so that sounds to me like it's below. It sounds like that's below 20, but that's just me. A topic that has fired up the population after taking some points of contention reached the press was one of statehood for Puerto Rico. The governor is already investigating some of the UPR members for sabotage and extortion. The details of talks weren't meant to be disclosed, and it's clear that someone in the meetings is purposely leaking the information. Coincidentally, the news outlets that most talk about the subject are the nationalist news outlets, which, despite apparently having no connection or even contact with the PNPR delegation of the convention, are still causing the governorship and the talks severe trouble. As protesters gather outside La Fuerza, the convention reaches the last point of the talks, and that's the one of statehood of the island. Puerto Rico's can be aided economically, and the Jones Law can be amended on a nationwide level for the United States, made clear by the UPR that the Puerto Rico gets its statehood status, the only way to guarantee both the long-term economic support the island needs, as well as the rights of representation in the United States Congress and the Senate, as well as the rights for Puerto Ricans to run for the President of the Union. However, this demand is a tall order, as the governor can't really demand the U.S. Congress to grant citizenship to the island, and a proposal to grant the island statehood is already rejected several times. Nevertheless, the UPR claimed that without statehood, nearly all the former demands will remain as pure talk with little guarantees. With no time to ask the federal government, the governor must pick his words carefully, lest he angers the crowds outside. Again, we want to reduce your popularity as much as possible, 6%. The governor is not popular in Puerto Rico. I think that kind of goes without saying. Very, very unpopular man. By the way, you're not sending troops over to the island, right? Are you sending troops to the Panama Canal? I think you are. Like, I'm pretty sure that's what your plan is. Here we go. The Second American Civil War has begun. I believe we are still technically a puppet of the United States, so we are going to be going to war with these guys as well. But chances are the American Union State, the CSA, Pacific States, nobody's actually going to invade our islands. Or at least I hope so. We have no factories. Like, we cannot make guns. However, Loyalist Infantry, give me like one of you. And there's a small chance, very small chance, that, non-aggression pact with you. Are we not at war with... Did he only call me at war against the CSA? It looks like it. You know what? Let's go on aggression pacts. Why not? Hopefully nothing bad will happen there. Okay, no, the Americans have... They did deploy some troops to the island, but they should be leaving now, not that the Civil War is actually breaking out on the mainland. I'm surprised that we don't actually have a, we don't actually have an event here for, the Civil War actually breaking out. Okay. The Union of Puerto Rico takes over the government. Having failed to reach an agreement and seeing himself vastly surpassed by the Puerto Rican support for independence, Governor Winsap saw no other choice but to deliver the power to the Assembly of Representatives gathered in La Fuerza. While one shipment of Union Puerto Rico will continue talks in San Juan, the objective now is no longer the integration back to the United States, but towards ensuring a peaceful and organized thought towards independence. For the most part, the Union of Puerto Rico addressed a cheering crowd at the outskirts of La Fortaleza, giving grand promises of self-determination for the island and a relief to the economic crisis that the island has been suffering since the start of the Great Depression. Yeah, we now have 85% support, which is fantastic. Also, we're no longer going to be at war, I believe. No, we are not. Fantastic. Yeah, I know we're not making anything, but there's nothing I can really do about that until I can build one factory. Yeah, because you're no longer a puppet. Even on aggression pact with you, but that doesn't really mean too much. And, you know, and what's going on over here with MacArthur happening over in you know, the old United States, that is no longer our concern. Our concern is bringing Puerto Rico to a new... What's our problem here? Government has okay, so I guess we have to finish this to get these other bonuses done. That's completely okay. Okay, Austria's at war with Hungary, so 24 days on you. So it's just a few more months, and then we can declare independence. We will see... Are we still losing... Okay, we're no longer losing stability. Fantastic. So we got rid of the anti-American sentiment fairly quickly, which I'm happy with. But we do have 85% support. Who's actually in our coalition? The Radical Socialists, the Social Democrats, Social Liberals, the Market Liberals, Authoritarian Democrat, and a National Populist. So essentially everybody right now, other than the Syndicalists and the Totalists, and I guess also the Colonel Autocrats, everyone else is in our coalition. But I don't think these guys even have... I think they have, like, between them, like, 5%. So, I guess it's 15%. No, because we have 85. And then all the other people in the coalition as well. Okay. We're all looking good. Okay, we have the army experience. I don't think we want to spend any points here. We can ignore you. And what do we want? I guess we want political advisors. Ultra-nationalists, we need to be national populist. But I don't think we're going to be going national populist. My reason for that is I'm pretty sure the Entente invades you when you go national populist. At least from what I've seen in the past. It seems like... Okay, make sure the game's on pause. It seems like the Entente thinks that you'd be a great addition to the West Indies Federation if you go national populist. Okay, after that, we'll go to South American citizens. The Americans respect our trade ties. Despite our intention of breaking off permanently from the Union, the United States government has signed a deal with us that guarantees that they'll continue paying for the shipments to and from Puerto Rico for the foreseeable future. In exchange, we will work to export products to them at a reduced price compared to the international market, but that's a small price to pay for staying connected to world trade. The political power. Doesn't give me any of these guys quite yet. Operative slot, I'm going to tell you we don't care about that too much. I mean, stability is always nice. Political power gain plus 0.12 is pretty nice as well. Political power gain, population growth. How much are we gaining? We're losing 2.14 thousand per day per month. Okay. 10% stability for a 5% recovery rate. Stability and research. We actually have like 3. And almost all of you are actually stability. But I think we're going to want to get the civil rights advocate here first, just because he does give us that little bit of political power gain and allow us to get our next advisor just a little bit faster. Here's an 8%. You're the empowered legislator, executive, and trade unions. I don't think we have to worry about that. I'm not even too sure we can actually do anything with any of those, honestly. Okay, so what's going on in the rest of the world? Again, Hungary did declare their independence. Probably are not going to last too long. Bulgaria's looking like they're doing quite well. CNT looks like they're about to win actually in Spain. The socialists did end up winning in Russia. I'm not too sure how involved we're going to be in the Second Weltkrieg, to be quite honest with you. Mostly due to the fact that we're Puerto Rico. Our options are, I would say, limited. I would say our options are a little limited. We can maybe send like one division into the war effort. And if he ever gets encircled and dies, that might just like be it. Okay, so status of American citizens will be done tomorrow, and then we can declare ourselves full independence. With our move towards independence, many American politicians and diplomats have stated their concern for the status of Americans on the island. As evidenced by the recent violence involving the nationalists, there are justified fears that independence may embolden nationalists to attack American residents in the island. As such, some delegates of the UPR have suggested signing a treaty with the United States, guaranteeing the safety of their citizens, as well as the possibility of them entering and leaving the island without the need for immigration checks. This would obviously help calm tension between our nations, but could potentially alienate the UPR from the nationalists. Political power. We can refuse their. I mean, that's a 10% national populist, but I don't want to go national populist. Let's sign a treaty. I have a feeling that in the long run, this would probably make sense. Again, we do lose a little bit of political power, but it's not that bad. I'm pretty okay with that. To be honest with you, I'm happy with this option. I think MacArthur, honestly, I think he's doing okay. CSA is losing a lot of territory to the American Union States. We might actually see Huey Long win the war. Huey Long is the rightful president, I believe. Wait, who's the rightful president? I mean, it's already July. You know what? The focus might have already expired. I know that the bonus for the rightful president, it only lasts like 2 months. It does not last very long at all. And Canada's not doing too much around here. Any other major wars or anything else that we have to kind of like keep our eye on? Vietnam's, well, not independent. They're a puppet of Germany, East Asia. So they're like a puppet of a puppet. It's quite interesting. They'll probably end up beating Indochina. Who's also, they changed the name actually in this patch from the Indo-Chinese Union to just being Indochina. What I'm going to also do is just increase my mic volume just a tad. Like, I was listening to it. I do feel like it's a little bit quiet. So hopefully that'll sound a little bit better. I should have done that actually at the beginning of the video, but you know, better late than never. A few more days until our independence is ready to go. Peru. Ecuador's actually winning a war against Peru. You know what? Good for you. Good for you. I always feel like Ecuador loses pretty quickly and pretty consistently in that war. So we'll see how that goes. And the governorship ends. With their agreements with the Americans finalized, the Puerto Rican provisional government has crafted the Independence Declaration for the United States of America. With wide press coverage, delegates from the PR came out and left Fortaleza and read the declaration to the crowd outside. While the island has already enjoyed de facto self-rule for a few weeks now, the ratification declaration by Governor Winship the next day, Puerto Rico is now officially independent. And now, can't do any of this because we need to actually have a wonderful election. Yeah, the Puerto Rico Constitutional Convention. After weeks of anticipation, the UPR has finally opened the doors to La Fuerza to all major parties and members to begin the Constitutional Convention. There, they intend to draft a new constitution for the island, which will guarantee the rights of all Puerto Ricans and hopefully prevent decades of political exclusion again. For the purpose of organization, the UPR has divided the delegation into 10 committees, 7 that deal with the Constitution itself, and 3 that deal with the convention's internal operations. The 7 constitutional committees, split by the UPR, are the Committee on the Preamble, Ordinances, and Amendment Procedures, the Committee on the Bill of Rights, the Committee of the Legislation Branch, Committee of the Executive Branch, the Judicial Branch, the Transitional Provisions of the General Affairs, and the Committee on the Editorial Style and Enrollment. As people rally on the streets anxious to see its progress, the convention starts with a seemingly hopeful outlook, as many see this as the first step in the right direction for the island has taken in many years. I would like to learn more about the Constitution, please. Maybe we'll get that. I don't know. Maybe not. Okay, officer corps. Because usually when you get those events, they usually happen like the same day. I'm hoping I didn't just lose out on like 40 political power because I didn't want to read all the bonuses. Okay. The constitutional preamble and the first article. I think this might end up going in. We might read the entirety of this constitution. As agreed by all parties, the preamble will read, "We, the people of Puerto Rico, in order to organize ourselves politically on a fully democratic basis, to promote the general welfare, and to secure ourselves and our prosperity, and to completely enjoy the human rights, placing our trust in Almighty God, do ordain and establish the Constitution of the Republic, which, in the exercise of our natural rights, we now create in our newly found independence. In doing so, we declare the democratic system is fundamental to the life of the Puerto Rican community. We understand that the democratic system of government is one in which the will of the people is the source of public power, the political order is subordinate to the rights of man, and the free participation of the citizens, the collective side, is ensured." One detractors have pointed out that the preamble may be a bit too similar to the United States. Others pointed out that such a preamble explaining the rationale of the Constitution may be helpful as a reference in the future amendments. Alongside the preamble, the first article has also been defined. Copying aspects of the other South American nations, the article reads, "Puerto Rican nation adopts for its government a representative and republican structure whose power will be shall emanate from the Puerto Rican people." Following section of the article also establishes the three branches of the power for Puerto Rico. The legislative branch, which will replace the old legislature in the American era in favor of a Senate. The executive branch, made up of the 51 members of the House of Representatives elected by the people, both of which shall be housed in the old Legislative Assembly. And the judicial branch, made up of the Supreme Court, which oversees all judicial procedures on the island. The final section of the article states that the capital of the island is naturally San Juan, given its size and location. As the commissions continue deliberating on the rest, it seems the convention is off to a good start. Fantastic. A lovely little convention for everybody here. So I'll probably end up reading the entirety of the convention before we call the episode to an end. I think Huey Long right now is off to a fantastic start. Fantastic start for him. The Bill of Rights, or the Carta de Derechos of Puerto Ricans, had long since just been the American Bill of Rights due to the Jones Law. However, with the recent breakup of Puerto Rico and America, a new draft of the Bill of Rights based on their American counterpart has been drafted to replace the old one. Split into 19 sections, the bill guarantees most known civil freedoms like freedom of assembly, freedom of the press, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom from unreasonable search and seizure, freedom from private ownership, and freedom from warrants issued without probable cause. In a somewhat controversial move for some nationalist groups, the bill also states that there is a strict separation between the church and state, which clashes with some stance of nationalist factions who claim Puerto Rico should embrace Catholicism as a state religion, as it is the majority religion. However, other delegates were unfazed by the protests, and so the bill was passed by majority voting. It'll come into effect once the Constitution is fully drafted. So I'm guessing we probably need to do the first election, and then we unlock everything else. Looks like we can either go for the Social Democrats, the Social Liberals, the Authoritarian Democrats, or the National Populists. And again, I don't think we want to go with you, but we'll see. We'll see. I might leave that up to a vote on the Discord. Covered by Articles 3, 4, and 5, this section of the Constitution starts off clarifying that Puerto Rico will have the territorial legislature that bicentennial in nature, having a Senate, known as the Upper House, and a Congress, similar to the American House of Representatives, known as the Lower House. It also settles the senatorial and representative districts for the elections. Finally, it has provisions for how the censuses are meant to be carried out, as well as restrictions for parties that with majority prevent them from unilaterally passing constitutional amendments. Followed by Article 4, the Constitution now establishes that Puerto Rico is a presidential republic, clarifying the length of presidential terms, the requirements to hold the post, establishes the president as the supreme leader of Puerto Rico's armed forces. Likewise, it also establishes that the creation of 8 executive departments that will delegate the executive work of specialists in different areas. Finally, for this section of the Constitution, Article 5 establishes that the judicial power of Puerto Rico shall be vested in the Supreme Court, and in such other courts may be established by law. Supreme Court will coordinate the rest of the courts in the nation, but will be considered a court of last resort. Supreme Court itself shall be made up of the Chief Justice and 4 Associate Justices, which shall be appointed by the Puerto Rican President with advice and consent from the Senate. With that section completed, the Constitution is now nearly complete, and while negotiations are progressively smoothly, some media outlets have picked up that the provisions to reduce executive power in case of dominant parties may have been done by opposition parties to the Liberals to restrict their power in case they are elected. This has clearly sparked some tensions as the Liberals are shown to be the favorites for the upcoming elections, and this could be taken as a tacit agreement of said supremacy. We should have about one more focus. I'm not too sure exactly when it's going to actually show up, though. Looking at 112, who do I want to get next? I mean, getting even more political power gain, well, I don't think would be too bad. Stability 10%, 5%, and a plus 5%. Compliance growth is kind of garbage. You know, let's go stability and research B, because we are kind of starting a year and a half behind. Finishing touches. As the Constitutional Convention draws to a close, the final details of the Constitution have been made public. Article 6, titled General Provisions, establishes that the Legislative Assembly, that is both Congress and the Senate, have the power to change territorial limits, including creating a policy to consolidating existing municipalities. Change the organizational structure of said municipalities. It also establishes that Puerto Rican government is fully authorized to impose and collect taxes from any entity within its borders, but that it is a duty to use this money for the welfare of the Puerto Rican people. Finally, Article 7 details the rules to amend the Constitution in case it is needed in the following years, stating that the amendment must pass by 2/3 majority on both members of the Legislative Assembly, and that the amendment amendments that fail to pass this way can still go to a popular referendum. With the publishing of the Constitution fully and publicly, now Article 7 will be invoked provisionally by the UPR in order to call for a referendum for the Constitution to be approved by the people. While purely formality at this stage, the move is being done to strengthen the idea that the government will be take very serious its commitment to the democratic preamble of the Constitution. Okay, I will say that it's like 4 o'clock in the morning where I am when I'm recording this. Not a good time to record and read at the same time. Okay, so you'll be done in 5 more days, and then we'll have a wonderful election. We'll start establishing embassies with nations supported independence. Will this allow me to join? I don't know if we can actually join a faction. This might allow us to, and I wouldn't mind it. I would not mind it. But I think for right now, this is going to be a good time for me to end this episode. Thank you everybody for watching. My name is Anthem. If you enjoyed, or a thumbs up. Not enjoying, click thumb down. If you want to subscribe, and goodbye.